I went into this interview with all my listening skills on high alert. I knew some of the core values of Randall's work, and I wanted to be able to totally focus on being present in the conversation, not thinking about the next question. And that took a bit of courage and vulnerability, but the result was such a beautiful conversation around such an important topic. Everyone should watch this. There are things that we talked about that every person, every parent will be able to relate to. And like almost everything, once we have an awareness of something, then we can choose to do things differently. If you've been struggling with your son or anyone really, and finding that, your son is not sharing with you or not listening to you, then what you'll hear in this episode has the potential to really impact your relationship with that person. Dr. Randall Alifano is a wise man, and in this episode, he shares that wisdom with you. Have a listen. Too many boys today feel lost, alone, and misunderstood. Too many parents feel the same. Behind today's troubling statistics is a generation of boys longing to be seen, heard, and valued. And yet the conversation around boys' emotional lives is still far too quiet. This new season of Unlocking the Parenting Code is here to change that. This season you'll hear more real conversations with young men, more expert voices on boys' mental health, more solo episodes where I share truths I've learned firsthand, and more wisdom from parents walking this road right now. It's time to open our eyes, open our hearts, and become the change our boys need. Boys aren't broken. They're waiting for us to truly see them, hear them, and stand with them. So tune in to Unlocking the Parenting Code for real conversations, real hope, and a new path forward for our boys. It's time. They're ready. Are we? Welcome back to Unlocking the Parenting Code, all about boys. I'm your host, Kathy, and today I'm welcoming Dr. Randall Alifano. Dr. Alifano is a PhD in clinical psychology, an ordained minister, and a master listener with over 40 years of experience weaving psychology and spirituality into transformative counseling work. Across thousands of conversations, he has helped individuals reconnect with their inner wisdom by truly being heard. Dr. Alifano's book, Listening in the Raw, Coming Home to Receptivity, invites readers into a profound exploration of what it means to listen without filters or preconceived judgments, listening that not only bridges the gap between speaker and listener, but dissolves it altogether. His lifelong work reveals how deep, curiosity-driven listening can transform relationships, heal isolation, and expand our sense of self. I am so excited to dive into your work. Welcome to the show, Randall.
Thank you, Kathy. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Randall, you've spent over 40 years at the intersection of psychology and spirituality. Can you share how your own upbringing, early training, and life experiences from the Italian family dinner table to SLN seminaries, how that led you to write Listening in the Raw and how it shaped your philosophy of presence over technique?
Yes, good question. Um, I think the personal thing to talk about first is my childhood, where, like you say, the Italian dinners, we'd sit around a big table with all the aunts and uncles and cousins, and everybody would be talking. And from my perspective, nobody was listening, not really listening. And I felt dreadfully alone. I would feel alone frequently in the family. And I thought, this is just what it is. This is existence on Earth, is we're alone, trying to talk to get heard, but no one's really listening, including the person who's trying to be heard. Um, and then in high school, I realized I should become a psychologist. I really want to listen to people. So friends from high school would come over to my house and talk to me about their issues, to the point where I transformed my upstairs bedroom into a mini office. I would go to where the more wealthy people lived, and they would throw out furniture once a month, and the
Yeah.
trash people would, and I would see which furniture, rugs, lamps I liked, and I would carry them home bring them up. And so it was without even thinking about it, I made this little living room office and people would come over and I would listen and talk. And it got through the school that if you have an issue, go talk to Randall. And sometimes it helps.
Wow. That would be quite a reputation to have in high school.
It was. And it felt like home. It it just felt like who I was and where I found communion with other is really listening, not from the perspective of fixing them or healing them, but really trying to get what it's like from them, to see through their eyes. And when that would happen, I and the speaker would have such a beautiful contact. And I thought, this is what I've been aching for all my life, all my, 17, 18 years, whatever it was. But I could feel this is magic. I can feel this person. I've known them for whatever, 5, 6 years. I've never known this depth in them, whether it was trauma or they're all excited about a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is. I wanted to feel their heart. I wanted to feel like what it was like for them to live their life. And it was beautiful. So
So how, so when I'm thinking about that, um, like I can understand, I usually think I'm a pretty good listener as well, and people seem to talk to me. But I know that there's a point in me where if I feel like I understand well enough because of being present and asking questions that help us understand each other better, I often get to a point where I think, I think uh, maybe I can give them this one tip or this one skill or this one strategy that might be what they need. But from listening to you and looking at the work you've done, it almost sounds like we don't need that part of it. So is that where it's kind of we maybe have those things inside? So as long as we have that listening being that we can get to wherever that is in us to find the answer. I don't know how clear that is, but
it's a tricky question. I really appreciate you asking it because the answer is tricky also, as far as I can see. Am I thinking, oh, I can offer them something? Is it through one of my own filters? So they're
mm,
saying something, I have a history about this thing, and I have something to offer you, which is why in the book I dedicated a whole chapter to humility, because as someone who listens, I have to remind myself I can only see through my filters. So if I have a moment like you're referring to, I will ask a question. And it may be something like, as we're talking, I have this thought in my head that dot dot dot, your mother did this thing. Is that right? And it's not a technique. I'm genuinely, okay, I just had a thought about this.
mm,
What do you think? And I notice my body kind of leans in, like, you know, and so I want to make sure that when I have an insight, I don't think, oh, I get it,
mm,
which is
okay.
where how therapists are taught to listen. We're taught to assess, diagnose a pathology, and then treat the pathology. So already we're so clouded with a filter of this pathology we're dealing with instead of the whole person. So even 40 years later, I'll remind myself, oh, I just had this thought. Ask a question. Be humble here because you know this much, you don't know that much.
Mm. When you're talking about the how therapists are trained, like the way that we speak to people, or I remember very clearly there was one time, like, and I thought about this when I was looking at your work, but I remember when I was late 20s. And it was the first time that I decided I would go and see a therapist. Not because I was going through major world crises, but I thought I could do better. I seemed to be stuck someplace. And up until that point, I had spent more than half of my life with self-help books and trying to understand myself and I'm curious about how it all works and how to be a good human being. And
Yeah.
I remember I finally made that move to go and see a counselor. And the first one I went to, I sat down and it was really interesting because I kept thinking, he's playing that strategy on me, but I know that strategy. So it was just terrible, absolutely terrible. And so, but I didn't give up and I tried one more. And I went to this next man. He was an Irish guy. And it was like he just welcomed me into his heart. And I never felt like I was in a counseling or a therapy session.
Right. Yes.
And it had a huge impact on me. I didn't maybe have the understanding then, but he was doing what you're saying now very much. It was very, very clear. It's important.
It's really important. And everyone knows we don't expect to be really listened to, right? We've all grown up where people don't really listen to us. There's a debate club, no listening club. And so we go to therapists and they do their techniques and we think, all right, that's what therapy is without even questioning it. But then when we sit down with someone who's genuinely curious, really wants to get to know us with an open heart, like you so beautifully just said, we go, oh, this is qualitatively different. That's how I want to be heard. So I feel like clients that I've seen who had done a bunch of therapy beforehand, almost across the board, they're so surprised and pleased that I'm not telling them what's going on inside of them. I'm asking them more and more, what's going on? What's it like? What's it feel like? And they respond almost, again, almost across the board. No therapist has ever asked me these questions. And my partner, David, and I will joke about, I had a new client today. And again, they said, no one's ever asked me these questions. They've been in therapy for 20 years. How could, how does that happen? And I think it's because we're used to not really being listened to. But once we are, we always want it.
Yeah.
It's gold.
I wonder if it's easier to get to that part with a child because you know how pure they are and you know that they're not dealing with the same filters that you're dealing with as far as trying to communicate. I wonder if what about for you, like when you were raising your boys? So I know as a mom of a boy who will be 32 soon, I know the differences between when he was growing up and now because we're both different. But how was it for you and your boys as far as the listening ability?
That's a great question because I think if we as parents can hold the child's innocence, then it opens up our door to our heart to be present in a way we wouldn't have been otherwise. So the story that you probably remember in the book was I had this whole plan to take my son on a hike, his first hike. He was 5 or 6 years old, or I don't know what he was, 7 maybe. And I had it all planned out. It'll be flat. We'll only walk half mile in, half mile out or something. There'll be woods. There's a little creek. He'll love it. We get out of the car. He walks maybe 10 meters and he says, Papa, look at this. And he's down on the ground looking at roots on a tree. And I'm, oh my God, yeah, buddy, those roots are so great. Okay, come on. Because I know what's good for him. I'm going to turn you on to hiking in the woods like Papa loves. Again, I don't, 10 feet later, Papa, look at this. And there was a lizard. Yeah, this went on maybe 4 or 5 times, ants, beetle. And I started to feel angry. Like, I just structured this whole day for you, and you're interrupting it by having a good time. And then it hit me. Wait a minute. He already is having a good time. His innocence is exploding in this exploration of this incredible world. And the impatience, the anger, my intention to do a good thing for him, which is one of the filters we really have to watch out for, it just evaporated. And I got down on my hands and knees. We probably walked 100 yards in and 100 yards out. It took us 3 hours because everything was so amazing and
Yeah.
fascinating. And so if I hadn't tuned into his innocence of he's in heaven right now, I could have been slightly abusive, going, Nico, let's go. And he would have said, okay, Papa.
Yeah.
And I would have shut him down a little bit.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have
Yeah.
said, Papa, look at that beetle. He would have just, and I could have easily missed it. So that would have been heartbreaking.
If you ever realized it. That's kind of the problem. We often don't.
If we, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's why therapy is so popular because parents don't.
Yeah.
The other example I like to give is your child has a nightmare and it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you have to get up early to go to work. And you come in and they say there's a monster under the bed. If you hold innocence, like you were saying, you'll respond very differently than if you think there's no monster under the bed. Go to sleep. I've got to get up early. And the child learns don't bring fear. Shut that down. Innocence closed up. If you go, oh, tell me about the monster, and you sit on the bed with the child, and what would you like, and what did they do, and the child learns, oh, I get scared and scream help, and you come and want to hear from me. The world will embrace my fear, and it'll take us another 5 to 10 minutes of hanging out with the child. It's not that big of a sacrifice, and the connection will be beautiful.
And
And
it's
that
it,
moment,
yeah, sorry. Connection
yeah,
is to me what's the most important thing. So whatever lets us connect to our children or other people in, in our lives.
right,
And that's where the striving has the biggest impact. That makes
right.
us, it makes me try the hardest
To
to be able to keep that connection deep and strong.
so, am I allowed to ask you a question?
Please?
So, how does it work with your, did you say 32-year-old?
Yeah.
Like, how's the contact now? Do they really embrace mama wants to really know about me?
Beautiful. I'm blessed. And I'm very grateful for the adult son that I do have. He, um, we talk about it's interesting the two different relationships he's got, you know. He talks to me in English from his heart and philosophically. He talks to his dad in Japanese about guy things, about, renovating the house, about, what's going on in the stock market. Complete two different conversations.
Mm.
But it's always been really, really important to me that he knows always he can talk to me about anything. There's no limits, there's no barriers. And there definitely have been times where I didn't like what I heard,
Sure.
and I made the choice. I want our connection to stay strong. So I can say that, I have different feelings about this, but I can still hold empathy for him and what he feels he needs to be doing at this particular time. But I am blessed. I love the relationship. But sorry, the last thing I'll say about it is it is further down here, but maybe we can talk about it a little bit. But it's just how it never stops. This growth between the child and the parent. It's like this dance that, as soon as you think you're, dancing to the same music, the music changes just slightly, and it's like, oh, so here we go. And you need to adapt because this is your relationship with your child. Just never
Right.
stops.
That, Kathy, that was gorgeous because most parents, as the music shifts, they want to bring the music back. This is
Mm.
my comfort zone. I listen to Frank Sinatra and all this rock and roll business. And if you can go, oh, you've changed the tempo. Okay, let's move that. Then you're right. It's a blessing. And you use the word gratitude. And that's to me the measure of whether I'm listening or not with a client, with my partner, with one of my children, is I'll be showered in gratitude and I'm listening and I just feel blessed and good and intimate and
Yeah.
mutuality. And I think I love how you put it, exactly that. If there's a shift in the music, I want to dance to their tune.
That makes me think a little bit about So like both of us are coming at life right now from the same stage. And communication has always been very important to me in understanding it. And I wonder about children that are growing up today. I wonder, are they experiencing the same things with communication? Is there, because there seems to be less face-to-face communication with people, are they losing some of those skills, or do you see a difference in people that you might see in your business who are younger, who are struggling with communication?
But I can tell you more intimately. My son Nico, the boy I took on the hike, he lives essentially a virtual reality. He teaches guitar, so he has human interaction, and he and I hang out a lot. But otherwise, he's on his computer, composing his music or playing games with people all over the world, and it's foreign to me. I don't get it. Um, and I remember with my dad when I was 18 and I decided to go to college for psychology, he sat me down and said, "Why psychology? What the hell is that about?" And I thought, "You have no idea who I am." And I could remember dismissing his question. So I'm very sensitive to how I want to go toward Nico about what are you doing with your life? So instead, what I've asked him is, "Hey, are you happy?" And he says, "Papa, I'm happier now than I've ever been in my life." And that's enough for me. I don't have to understand his choices. He loves it. He'll come in and tell me about the 6 hour D&D session with six people from all over the world, and he's so excited and enthralled by it. And that's enough for me.
Yeah, you really do have to get to that point that you don't understand their world. You just don't understand it. Like my son also does remote work,
Right.
and it's different. The world that they are living in, like I'm from the generation, work hard, get a good job, all the traditional things. That's not his world. And it's really you really do have to be mindful of that and kind of like, okay, again, what's the core? And trust. Like trust is a really big thing. I find myself worrying about his future because he has a different perspective. And then it's kind of trying to realize I don't know his world. Like I
Right.
don't
Exactly.
know it. So if he's doing fine, if he's happy with he where he is, if our relationship is solid, does it matter that it's not the way I would have done it or anything that I understand?
Again, I think that's beautifully placed because as therapists or parents, if we don't understand, if we're in the unknown, we tend to want to pull our children into our known.
Mhm.
Get a job, get a girlfriend, I don't whatever it is, and we're missing the mark. And therapists with the same thing. You should do this or you should do that. Hold back a bit. First, ask questions and find out what's it like for them. Are they happy? Are they engaged in the way they want to be? And then leave it alone. But I feel like this goes back to what you said earlier about what's our relationship to the unknown. And to me, that's the heart of spirituality. If I want to truncate reality down to just what I know, then I'm confined. I'm constricted. If I can open up to the unknown and really listen to people, then that feels like spiritual practice to me. It's a meditation and it feels good. And if I may make another point, is that okay?
Please.
Because we're taught the listener listens in the service of the speaker, that we're there for them. And I think there's certainly truth to that, but it's only half the story.
Yeah.
There's there can be such a beautiful mutuality when one is really listening, like I was mentioning earlier about Schopenhauer, to really have compassion and feel what it's like for the other person. Isolation ends. Their pain is this close to my pain. We're all humans struggling with very similar, if not same things. Like isolation is one of them. And so if I could just really drop into ask questions until I feel what it's like for them, then I'm listening in the service of them and me because I'm now expanding. I'm seeing life from their perspective. And a moment ago, I would have tried to pull them into my perspective because I'm right about this. You, Nico, let's go. We're hiking. I made this, we just lose the thread. So again, how to sit in the unknown and embrace, yeah, I don't know, but I don't have to.
Will you just talk a little bit about, anyone who hasn't read your book, but the whole concept of filters?
I can try. Um, I feel like what you were saying earlier about innocence. I think we're born innocent. Um, the example I like to give is if you have an 8-month old and you give them, or maybe a year old, I'm not sure when children start eating real food. If you give them steamed broccoli, their innocence tells you right away, no, thank you. Get that out. 2 minutes later, you give them some vanilla ice cream, and 30 seconds later, they're wearing it. They want it so much. So to me, innocence is knowing exactly what I want and exactly what I don't want. It speaks what I need and want with clarity. If I start eating that ice cream as a 1-year-old and mom or dad say, "You're making a mess," filter. Don't eat like whatever I just did, don't do that because the world comes at me in a bad way. If I have a nightmare and dad says I have to get up early in the morning, shut up, go to bed, don't bring fear to filter. I've learned I have to filter myself when I come into the world. Reiterate that thousands of times through growing up and friends and partners and all stuff. Our life becomes, again, rather truncated. So we become victims of our own filters that were originally constructed to protect us from the hurts of the world, but then they become locked in. So the easiest ones are like racism, homophobia, sexism, whatever. If we're raised um, in a sexist environment, whether we're a man or a woman, we're going to have that filter on a woman in terms of her value, a man in terms of his maybe objectification of, and it just feels normal because that's how we were raised. So I use the term filter as opposed to defenses because that to me seemed more exact, that I've got this filter over my eyes. So if I was raised in a misogynistic culture family, that filter's here. I can't see a woman. I can't see who she really is because whatever she's saying is getting filtered through that. So to me, my life's work is how to disentangle and disengage those filters so I can sit and really be present, really listen to, and really see what it's like from another person's perspective. So to me, it's a lifelong commitment to noticing, oh, I told Nico to hurry up hiking because of my filter. It was a good intended filter, but it was wrong. It was completely inaccurate. And I don't want to miss those marks.
So, um, I wrote down what I wanted to come back to because I want it to stay in the conversation. Um, but a lot of what you're saying really reminds me of what I talk about connected with boys growing up. And when they experience the when they have an experience when the emotion that they're showing is the cause of some embarrassment or shame, like the little boy who falls down hurt, cries, someone says don't cry, and that
Exactly.
every time someone disvalues what their authentic feeling is, then they put on a mask.
That's
And
right.
that mask is to kind of protect them. And the danger that happens is that the more masks that get built on and on and on, the more difficult it is for that little boy at whatever age they get to go back and tap into that really pure little guy inside because of
Yeah.
those masks. So
Yes.
what's the correlation like between the masks? I'm thinking of it from from the boy's point of view. What's the difference or the correlation between that and being in a conversation where your filters, it's almost like the filters might be a little bit about your own biases about things, how you're seeing it, how you're reacting to it.
Absolutely. The reason my personal preference would be filters more than masks because masks are just flat. And I want to pay attention to if you wear a mask, you're still seeing, but you're protected from something hitting your face. And what I've noticed with filters is no, my vision is altered. If I'm
Mm,
taught to not like the adorable story in the book where we're driving to grandma's house and my mom sees a deer in the woods. And I said, isn't that adorable? And I'm again 7 or 8 or something. My two older brothers are, oh, isn't that adorable? Is it adorable, Rand? Is it so? And I learned, like I can remember to
yeah.
this day, don't ever say that word again. Filter. And I
Mm,
never did until high school. I just, and it's not, so it wasn't just a mask protecting me. It was one, a boy doesn't say adorable. That's a bad
mm,
thing because you'll get hit,
yeah.
shamed. So um, again, I feel like that's the hard work for any of us who listen, whether it's a parent or a therapist or whatever, or with our partner. Um, we have to be diligent in if I have an attitude or even a little tiny contraction about what you're saying, I don't want to run with that contraction and say, Kathy, no, you got that wrong. I want to think, oh, I can feel I'm tightening. I'm having a problem. Soften that. Ask a question. Try to get to know why she's saying that. Where did she come up with this conclusion or this thought? And time again, I'm enthralled by how that person came to that opinion. I get it now. So with the filter, it's no, I'm right, you're wrong. You should change. But when I soften and recommit to really listening to them, then they're a brother and sister who are seeing through their filter.
I'm very interested in what you just said, and I want to ask you if you are still challenged by that, because I think the same thing. But I know as recent as this week, it's been a long time that I've had that reaction where someone has said something, and I responded rather than sitting with it and finding out more. So even with being very aware and trying to be intentional with conversations. Do you ever find like this is your world, so maybe not, but do you ever find that you say something and then reflect and think, oh gosh, that was I wish I had have gone a little different direction in my response.
Well, I was going to make a narcissistic joke and say, no, I listen with perfect clarity. Yeah, of course. That's why to me it's like a meditation practice. When you meditate, there may be moments of silence, just pristine quiet, and then thoughts come in. And masters have told us thoughts will always come in. The idea that you're going to obliterate thought is not accurate. And to me, it's the same with when I'm speaking to someone. I'll have thoughts, associations, attitudes, opinions, and it's an ongoing practice to notice because if I can reiterate, they always come with a kind of contraction. I can feel my body tightening a teeny bit. And to me, that's the signal. Am I always on it? Absolutely not. Ask Davida, my partner. I said, sometimes I have busy mind instead of meditative mind. But I think the advantage, because I've so devoted myself to this, is I'll catch it.
Yeah.
And now I can say, wait, my bad. Wait, hold on. I can feel I'm off balance right now or something. And then we can realign. But yeah,
Mm.
this is lifetime work.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so something else that I wanted to kind of pick your brain about, because I've been thinking so much about listening and communication. And I wonder how big of a part our sense of self-worth, self-esteem go into how well we can listen
Oh,
and
that's a
speak.
good question. That's a perfect question.
When I was raising my son, I longed for a guide, something real, honest, and grounded in what boys truly need. So I created the book that I wish I'd had. Packed with tools and real world strategies that actually work, you'll learn how to nurture his emotional world and finally understand the feelings behind his behavior. Because boys don't need punishment, they need guidance. We'll bust the myths that keep boys boxed in and help you support him through the real challenges of growing up. Most of all, it's about transforming your connection, one small moment at a time. Raising boys who become remarkable men. Get your copy today and let's create a beautiful future together.
So, a lack of self-esteem is a big fat filter. It's something we were taught. It's not who we are. So, as soon as we can hold that, then that system starts to shift. But we have to see it for what it is, which is I never told myself I wasn't of value until mom, dad, older siblings, they programmed me to think I wasn't of value because I didn't dot my I's or I struck out at home plate or who knows what. This is this was their filters being intruded upon me. It's not who I am. And that opens, to me, that opens the door. Instead of buying into it, it's, oh, it's just a fat filter. I lack self-esteem because it's what I was taught. The tricky part will be, especially if you're a therapist, if someone comes in to your office or whatever and they speak a similar program about their self-esteem, that could be very challenging because we may want to get them better as opposed to, oh, me too. Tell me more. So now it's two
Oh,
people,
yeah.
oh, we've both been beat up kind of the same way, as opposed to, uh-oh, I've got to up their esteem, which misses the point, in my not so humble opinion.
Well, and I can say firsthand, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
But, and also tying in with what I've learned about you, um, what I have seen work, because I have someone in my life that I think is that's the area of miscommunication. And what I have seen work for the first time, because I've tried all my things and the gentle way of rethinking and retalking and all the things that I that might work for me and didn't work for the other person. And then another person, a younger person, came into the picture and is addressing the same communication issues, challenges, but with humor. And
Uh-huh.
it sits like that person can hear it without putting up defenses. It's brilliant. So you talk about humor. So can you maybe share a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Um, I wish some of my clients were here because we joke around a lot.
Mm.
Um, Even something like what we were talking about a moment ago, where we're programmed to have low self-esteem or we're not attractive enough or not smart enough. I find that I think one has to be very um, careful and clear because joking could also hurt if it's delivered incorrectly. But to bring some levity and humor to, oh my God, all my life I've had a self-esteem issue. I didn't generate that. It was generated and put into me. Well, I'll be damned. And almost giggle about, oh, I'm relieved. Now I just have to get out of the program. I don't have to change who I am. I just have to take off that filter and realize I'm good to go. Now what do I want? And to me, that's the key to, for example, self-esteem things is we don't allow ourselves to want what we want, but innocence teaches us we want. So to bring levity to it, to bring some humor so that the person can giggle about, right, my mom, she did that stuff to me over and over and over again. That's not me, that's her. Huh. It's like a
Yeah.
happy wake up call.
Yeah, I think humor is something in parenting that is kind of like your superpower if you can tap into it and keep that alive as your children are
Right.
growing up. My son
Yeah.
is the only person in the world that thinks I'm funny. Everybody else thinks I'm serious and quiet and introverted. And the first time he said, oh, my mom's really funny. I just, it was like, who are you talking about?
Really?
But then I think that's our relationship. There are, like, I am completely myself with him. And that's just the relationship that we have, I guess.
So why? Because you as the parent are largely responsible for the structure of the relationship. What happened with him that all those filters could just be sloughed and you could come into, I'll just be me with him. So you guys could have this incredible connection. How did you do that?
Interesting question. I've just always been fascinated with him as eh, like, as a human that, came from love between two people and that this beautiful human being, I have the privilege of being part of his world.
Yeah.
And there was no um I didn't have to be anything. I just needed to love him. So
Wait,
we
can you just say that again? That was gorgeous.
well, thank you. Yeah, well, I didn't need to be anything. Just love him. And I found that easy. That part.
Yes.
I find life hard. I will say I find life hard. I'm very sensitive. But with him, no, it was just I loved watching that little human. I still do love watching him grow.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Wow.
On one level, it's so simple, like you just put it. Doing it can be tricky and complex, but the philosophy of it is simple. And you just said it. I didn't have to be anything but myself.
Isn't it
Innocence.
funny how that we don't, like you said, the filters that get put upon us or the filters that are created from whatever. But like, I wonder if, every time you have the privilege of having a child, you can start, you can wipe that slate clean. Like, you don't have to bring that stuff in if you don't want to. Whereas if you're dealing with another adult, usually our histories, our baggage will come into those relationships because we get triggered. But
Right.
with your child, it's new. It's
Well, what I'd like to say is it's a beautiful opportunity, like you're saying, but most of us parents mess it up.
I
We
don't think a
tell the
lot of,
child
sorry.
we tend to tell the child what they should think, do, or say,
Mm,
and as opposed to what's it like from your perspective, sweetheart? Like Nico in the hike.
yeah.
I was right. I made this hike. Let's go. No, Randall, no, totally missed the point. And if I hadn't felt his innocence, I could have missed it like that.
I think I wonder if the more you work on understanding yourself, the better you get at being able to be in the moment, to be present.
No doubt.
Mm,
No doubt. That's why I say it's lifetime work because there's always filters to notice. I'm still stunned, even at my ripe old age, to think, wow, I didn't see that clearly. Where was I? Wake up.
yeah. Yeah. Life is a very
Amen.
interesting thing. Okay. I haven't scrolled down on any of my questions yet. So let me
Okay.
just make sure I'm trying to watch and make sure I'm not taking too much of your time, but I want to make sure that I think we talked about quite a lot, but Okay, the last thing else I will. Oh yeah, we've talked about everything. There's just one more thing because I had so much fun. You mentioned when we initially first talked, and you kind of said about, is it Lucas? The dad
Yes,
jokes?
yes, the Earl of Dad
Well,
jokes.
yes, I started looking at his stuff and some of the traveling that the two of you did to Iceland or something, and it just filled my soul. Like seeing a son and a dad and seeing a young man your son's age just be goofy and looks like he doesn't give a hoot what anyone thinks. He is just having fun. And being on the viewing side, it's like, oh my gosh, he's just given me the best feeling, like just seeing someone else laugh. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about that because like where'd that come from that he has that beautiful sense of self that he can just do what feels good.
That's a lovely question. And it harkens back to what you were asking me earlier about the role of a parent. So he's the Earl of Dad Jokes, and he has 600,000 followers. He doesn't make much money because he's an actor. So he's in lots of local plays, and he loves it. He just loves it. And I go down to see him every show he's in if I can make it. Um, but I could get tight as the papa. Lucas, you got to get a job.
Yeah.
You're at the age now where how about when you get that's my filters. Let him live his happy life. And then, he's living his life and he starts telling these jokes and he didn't know what to do with it. And a friend of his, Pam, said, you should go on um,
TikTok.
Instagram and TikTok and you should call yourself the Earl of Dad Jokes. And Lucas was like, no, I can't do that. But he jumped in. And like you say, his delivery, it's so genuine and
Yeah.
organic that you can't help but giggle with him with these
Yeah.
silly, stupid dad jokes. And that's how he lives his life. He he follows his innocence about what's right for him, what's not right for him. And the golden compliment he gives me is he calls me his soul papa,
Oh.
that he and I have a soul connection. So, and I love that you did your research on me because you see it in the photos when we travel. We just are gaga in love with each other and have a great time.
Yeah, it was when I saw the two of you together in your travels, I thought, boy, how beautiful is that an adult son and his father can just have so much fun together. Like, it's beautiful, just beautiful.
I think, and I think he would say this too. We have a long, long history of me asking him questions.
Mm.
What's it like for you? What was it like to do that? And I'm not playing a game. I'm genuinely
Yeah.
wanting to know what's it like inside over there that you didn't get that call back or that kid made fun of you in grammar school or and that became, I don't know, the paradigm, the structure of our relationship is we really want to get to know each other. What's it really like in there? And so then it's easy to have, going back to your question about humor and jokes, we joke and tease each other all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty grateful for that one.
Well, it's a beautiful thing to see. So that okay, so from your perspective now, at the age and stage you're at, with the relationships you have and the wide view that you have of people's challenges, what would be the best thing you could say for a parent who just is trying to do their best and they just need some golden nugget to take away from this? What would you say to them?
Well, that's a big question.
Mm,
Um, one very general answer that comes to my mind is you've got to take care of yourself.
mm,
What young parents tend to do is they get all unraveled because there's so much stress and tension. And then there's no way you're going to be able to sit and be open and listen to your child. You're going to want to get things done. So, how to do that? And sometimes that's harder said than done. Um, what I try to teach parents is the extra 3 minutes it takes to ask questions really won't ruin your day.
Mm.
That if you're impatient, um, like I could have been with Nico on the hike, it's no longer about our shared reality. I'm lost in my own filter, especially the good intended ones, because we can get really defensive about, hey, I did this thing for you. Come on.
Yeah.
And we can totally miss the point. So again, I think it's like meditation, how to keep in mind, it's so easy for me to get knocked off balance, even with a good intention of we have to get this done, or I have to wash the dishes now, or to check that and go, is that my only option right now? Or do I want to know why he's not eating his vegetables? Because I'm a New York Italian. I know how to be strong and angry. It was my second language growing up. It rarely was helpful. But when I would turn it around and say, like we mentioned earlier, what did the monster look like? Do you want to look in the closet with me, or do you want me to look in the closet? Where I let them lead the way. Then we have relationships like you talk about with your son, where I can say anything to mom. She's there. She's not telling me what to do, judging me. She's curious about me. And I think that's the best thing we can give anybody we're listening to.
I wonder if you'll finish with one story that I heard you tell, um,
Okay.
kind of about perspective. And I loved it and it
Okay.
stuck with me. It really stuck with me. The two little boys going into the farm that was full of some kind of animal dung. Do you remember that one?
You mean the ponies?
Yes.
Well, that's great. You remember that one. Yeah, I was taught this in grad school. A teacher mentioned it to me. I thought it's brilliant and weird at the same time.
Yeah.
The story is two kids are in a barn and there's shoulder high horse poo. And one kid picks up a shovel and starts shoveling the poo. And the other kid says, "What the hell are you doing? Get out of here. It's gross." And they said, "Well," the other kid says, "with this much horse poo, there must be a pony in here someplace." And so
Yeah.
it's a beautiful, to me, example of two different perspectives. One kid's diving in, the other kid is, "No, poo. We don't do poo." Talk about a filter.
Yeah.
Now, the tricky part of it, probably don't want to wade knee deep in horse poo, but I still like the metaphor of the story of there must be something else in here if all this poo is here. Let's go after it. Why did
So,
why did that stick in your mind?
well, so again, I guess whatever you see or hear, you take it in with your filters. So I kind of,
That's right.
how I resonated with it was that sometimes, certain times in your life, perhaps the future looks like, horseshit. And it's really hard to remember that that pony is on the other side. That's how I took it. I thought it was just I loved it and it
That's right.
resonated.
Exactly. It's thank you. That helps clarify it. Because if we smell poo, we contract
Hmm.
and we want to get away. And so the metaphor, there's poo everywhere. An angry person, a victim, whatever our judgments are. And so how to become ever more precise of, oh, I'm tightening up. I may be missing what's on the other side of that poo.
Yeah.
And it's like that, those judgments happen. Like you're reminding me of a story that you're probably familiar with because you read the book. Um, when I was 22, 22 years old, I worked at St. Catherine's, and it was a residential facility for little kids whose parents weren't very good, we'll say. And on my day, I loved these five kids I worked with, but especially this little girl, 5-year-old Peggy. Um, and I came in on one of my days off. I said, I'm going to take Peggy to Safeway and buy her a treat. Treat her great. And it's up in Albany, New York, so there was snow on the ground. So we walk a little bit, and she plops down in the snow, and she makes a snow angel. Now again, I'm in my head. Come on, Peg, we're going to go to the Safeway. And I said, okay, honey, let's go. And sometime later, she plops down in the snow again and she makes another snow angel. And at some point, two or three times of this, I said, Peggy, come on, we're going to Safeway. And she heard the tension in my voice and she said, what's the purpose? To get to Safeway or to have fun along the way? And I thought, when did this 5-year-old become my Buddhist teacher? I mean, it just blew my mind. I was dumbfounded. It was such a simple, brilliant, cutting through my filter. I stared at her when she's down on the ground, in the middle of this angel making, and I just flopped down on my back and started to make an angel. I thought, you win, kid. You're teaching me wisdom here. We never made it to Safeway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
That's
remember,
beautiful.
all these years later, I remember that precious moment where she taught me, honey, get out of your head and your good intentions. This is the magic right now. And again, I could have missed it like that.
Yeah. I think I've been really blessed in my life because I've got more than 40 years in education as well, and 30 of it in the classroom directly, and most of it with early years
Uh-huh.
children. So I am constantly dumbfounded at how brilliant these little ones are when you listen to them. Like, because they're so
Yes. Thank you.
pure. I think they should be running the world.
Yes. That's why I say, when did you become my Buddhist teacher?
Yeah.
Because that innocence is what really teaches us,
Hmm.
not all the filters and all the mishigas in the filters.
Yeah.
It's when someone speaks with innocence, we show up, we pay attention because we can feel someplace deep inside, even if we don't have language for it. This is powerful. We should listen to this.
And it's funny at this point in life too. We often talk, my son and I, about, growing up, and we'll watch old videos, for him now it's fascinating to see himself as a toddler and all that stuff. But when we talk about things, and in my own memory as well, it's those times that you're talking
Right.
about with that little girl where something that was not planned, a big rainstorm comes, and a 4-year-old little guy says, "Let's go for a walk, Mom." And
Right.
it's like, okay, let's go. And it turning out to be one of the best times that you ever had with them. Like,
That you remember the rest of your life, right?
yes, yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah, so I hope parents take that out of too. Just sometimes you gotta, whatever's on the list just is not that important.
Let
So,
innocence be your teacher. Yes,
hmm,
amen.
yeah. Randall, before we do finish, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wish we had of?
Pff, no, I mean, there were probably thousands of things we didn't get to,
Could
but
have, yeah.
I have frankly loved this conversation. I love your depth. You're really wanting to go after this stuff. I feel your integrity in it, and it means the world to me. So I've absolutely enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I must say that this was, like I said before we started, this was one that this was going to be my test. Could I relax enough into it to really be present, and I was so excited to learn more from you because this is just a topic that I think can change people's world. Like I
I do
really
too.
do.
That
Yeah.
I do too. That's why
All
I'll
right.
probably never retire.
I say the same thing. Like you're doing it with listening and communication. I'm doing it about, the world, the inner emotional world of little boys. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
all about trying to relate to each other better with love,
Yes.
basically.
Exactly that.
So where can people get in touch with you, get your book, anything they want? You've mentioned, and I will make sure to put the Earl of Dad jokes in there because I think everybody should be watching that.
Lucas will appreciate it. And yes, everybody should be watching it. Just,
Yes.
30 seconds of him doing it and you giggle and life looks
Yeah,
better. And in
exactly.
fact, he's been after me to do a dad joke because he talks about me with his audience sometimes and they say we want more papa.
Yeah.
So I just did one, and he's going to be publishing it tomorrow or the next day.
Oh,
So
I'll be looking forward to that then.
I'll be doing a dad joke.
Listen, thank you very much, Randall. I really thoroughly enjoyed today, and I know how precious time is for everybody, and I hope that you feel that yours was honored today.
It really
Um,
was.
and I know there's lots in this that anyone who listens to it, it's going to make their world a little bit better. It has to, because, yeah. And if they're listening to it, it's because they want that to happen.
Yes. And of course, I'd love for them to look at the book if they're interested. And I'm online, so they could contact me if they want a consultation or anything like that.
And not just plugging your book for the sense of plugging the book because you're on this podcast. I honestly believe and know it deep and personally, the difference in relationships when you know when someone knows how to listen and talk. So if you have more an awareness of how to listen and what you're talking about with the questions and the curiosity, it's just like everyone should be getting better at this. The world would be better if we could. So your book is one way that people can grab onto some of that and just make a difference in their world. So I hope people do.
Can I tell you one more quick story?
Please.
Uh, a colleague of mine, also a PhD, we went to the same grad school together. We hadn't have contact for maybe 10 years or something. And he reached out and we went to have dinner just a few weeks ago. And he said, I read your book. I loved your book. I said, well, tell me, what did you get from it? He says, the best is I'll be sitting with a client and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to say. And I just think to myself, all I need to do is listen in the raw and everything just softens. And all that
Mm,
tension of, I don't know what to do. And I thought, that's about the best compliment I could get. Where when
yeah.
he's distressed of, uh-oh, he just repeats the words to himself and he calms down. I thought, what a beautiful thing to say to me.
Well, what a beautiful gift to give to people because we don't want to look like we don't have the answers. We don't want to look
Right,
incompetent. So to
right.
be able to hear somebody in a position of knowledge and experience and wisdom say, you don't have to have the answers. That's not what this is all about. That's a gift.
You're once again, Kathy, you're absolutely right. This is something I have with my clients. I'll freely say, I don't know, or I don't understand yet. Across the board, they love it because they're not getting fed some bull crap from a therapist who
Yeah.
knows everything. I can join with them. Okay, right now, you and I don't know. Let's continue, see where we go. And it frees people up.
Well, and everything that you're saying is definitely applicable to parenting. So thank you again, Randall.
Thank you, Kathy. I love it. And if ever you and your family are in California, come on over. We'll give you dinner.
Well, same thing here. If you're ever in Japan, there's lots for us to show you around our area. We're in the boonies, so it's
Okay.
all farmland and fisheries and beautiful nature. So
Lovely. Pleasure. Thank you.
my pleasure. So thank you to our listeners for joining us on Unlocking the Parenting Code, all about boys. Be sure to check out Randall's links in the show notes and don't forget to subscribe, share, and tune in next week for more conversations about raising boys. Thank you for sharing your time with me today. Every conversation we have here is a step toward raising boys who feel seen, heard, and deeply valued. If you're looking for more support on this journey, I invite you to visit me at sonhoodcoaching.com. You'll find a link in the show notes. And as always, thank you for being part of this important movement. Until next time, take good care.